What's the haps? I'm Meroka and welcome back to Worlds Adrift. This is actually not going to be like a normal video, this is going to be post-commentary, which is novel and unusual, but here we are. So, this video is also unusual for multiple reasons. Firstly, it is without Tulkas. Tulkas is away on his jolly bobs at time of recording. Secondly, it was supposed to be a live stream, but unfortunately my internet service provider has had some slightly shaky moments over the last few months, and I think it might be okay to stream now. I think they might have fixed it, but at time of recording it was not working very well. The handful of people who managed to tune in for it will very much attest to that. So this is my attempt at recording a shipbuilding in lieu of doing a live stream that was supposed to be shipbuilding without Tulkas, to fill the gaps before Tulkas gets back, except that also, because of all the changeover with me getting a new computer and things, I also somehow managed to fail to set up my recording software to also record my microphone. So this video got no commentary. Great. So, I have been hanging around on the Badlands ship where we left off, which is this little island here. There's a cave going on that I found as a nice place to build. It seemed like a nice sort of hangar kind of thing to build in, which seemed pretty cool. I know I've had trouble with building things in caves before, but it is a pretty cool cave, and it's a bit more secluded. Pirates are not likely to drop out of the sky on you, as we've had issues with that. So, a couple of weeks of farming resources gives you roughly what you're seeing on the screen in front of you now. I got a few bombs, got a few Atlas lifters, got a gratuitous amount of most of the important metals, got plenty of Atlas shards, and yeah, plenty of recipes as well. We have still don't have all the things, because obviously we missed some on the way here. There's still like some tier 2 and 3 ones missing, but I have at this point, I think 3 tier 4 core upgrades, which is kind of cool. So ultimately, the actual lift capacity I can now build is greater than the current total capacity on New Ironsides, wherever she may lie somewhere in the sky. She lies somewhere in the sky. At any rate, yeah, so this ship that I'm going to build is, in theory, going to be small, lightweight, svelte, very agile, and yeah, it's basically like a dinghy but smaller. I have named it a Snow, which is historically a small-ish sort of sea-going vessel, sailing ship. So it's that. It is basically a small galleon in this instance as far as my plans go. And yeah, it's therefore going to be much lighter than New Ironsides, and it already has a higher weight capacity. So ultimately there's just going to be a lot of weight capacity spare at the top end, which means it should ascend and descend very quickly, it should turn a lot faster, and also we've just generally got a lot of cool stuff going on, because I've been farming things on a Badlands island for a couple of weeks. So, I've got all sorts of things going on. Somewhere in here we have some tier 4 wings. I forget which engines I have, we will get to them momentarily, I'm quite certain. But for now, yeah, we've got this thing going on. This is a point where I managed to stupidly kill myself with a panel dropping on my head, but it does illustrate the point that I also have some gliders at this stage. That is a thing that occasionally some people do seem to leave around the Badlands. I guess Johnny Glider Seed is real after all, so you hang around here, you'll find some in chests. People do seem to leave them around. Then not everyone is bad. I mean, our encounters with people on the island so far have not been great, but the few people I have met on this island in the intervening weeks, some of them have been okay. I will note I did actually genuinely run into Spike again, aka Mr. I Stole the Ship of Love. Yeah, I didn't really hang around to interact with him to any great extent, just because, well, he tried to steal our ship and ruin everything before, so I wasn't particularly inclined to have a scuffle with him again, particularly when I'm running around carrying, like, 1,000 titanium and 1,000 aluminium. Those are not things I want to, like, inadvertently lose just over some old grudge. I mean, if I'd been carrying, like, literally nothing on me, I would have shot that guy in the back of the head instantaneously, but circumstances dictated I need to act otherwise. But other than that, there have been other friendly people who've just been like, yeah, I can help you out if you want to help me out, exchange recipes and things, I got spare stuff, let's trade, let's That's you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of thing. People are still friendly out here. Some of them. It's just that there are, you know, the ratio of friendly to unfriendly people seems to be a little bit lower than they were in the Remnants. So this is the point at which I immediately realized I wasn't alone on this island. We have someone here joining us. They I'm not gonna lie, they concerned me a bit. But ultimately, they proved to be reasonably benign. Yeah, just kind of a little concerned that there would be another spike. And like, hey, I'm building a ship. This is when I'm kind of at my most vulnerable. If somebody wanted to, like, cause havoc and murder me, I've got no real way to get away from all of this. And I would lose a lot of things. Yeah. He was just like, I'm just visiting. I'm just passing through. If you want stuffs, I'll give you stuffs. So, I believe he's going to provide us with a tier 4 recipe, and if memory serves, I think he leaves behind some nice resources as well. So that's a nice little bonus there. So tier 4 engines, I think this is where we get our tier 4 engines from, actually, all things considered. He's going to provide us with something that has 71 power on it, which is, you know, base power. By the time you've got it upped with some nice materials, these engines come out to be very nice indeed. Very, very nice indeed, actually. You don't need a lot of them to make a ship go fast. So there we go, the Ironforge Cloud Chaser X12. So we are going to start by putting some exclusively, you know, exotic materials in. Casing, or do I use getting some titanium in there, getting some tungsten. Did I use tungsten in that? I don't know. The video I'm playing back to record things over is actually not that high resolution, so I can't actually make out exactly what's being chosen there. So tungsten props. Tungsten props is a thing that I've always tended to go for. Props kind of like they're a good part of power. They want to be good and strong. I'm not actually 100% sure if tungsten is necessarily the best for that. I have always assumed it has been in the past, but I think just judging by the description, it says unparalleled resistance to the elements. That seems almost maybe they're good for, you know, thermal components. Maybe that is what tungsten is for, when it's like mechanical internals, combustion internals, like those generate a lot of heat. That, you know, resistance to elements would be good for that, you know. Casing just wants to be strong, so titanium perhaps best for that. I don't know, those are numbers that might be documented on the wiki, but I haven't checked, so yeah. I think ultimately went with some of that was nickel, just on the basis that, frankly, tier 4 engines are really, really goddamn expensive, actually. So, no matter how much you farm, it's quite easy to still come up short. You know, I've got thousands of lots of exotic materials there. Still don't got enough to build 4 of these engines. I think ultimately it works out about 3. You can make 3 engines here if you're willing to substitute some lesser sort of materials in for some of the components. But hey, like I say, they're very nice engines, so 3 is still a good number of engines to have. So there you can see, very, very briefly, yeah, that's what the final stats actually come out at, once you've actually put titanium and whatnot in there. The power comes out at a little over 100, so that's just lovely. I'm actually not sure any of the engines, I'm not sure if any engines on New Ironsides did come out that powerful. I think the most we managed on any of the New Ironsides engines was about 92, was it not? At any rate, I guess the engine schematics were comparable. I think the difference is the quality of the materials makes a heck of a difference. So we do have another new friend turns up here. This guy is, again, a little concerning. New faces turning up out of the blue. Whilst we're building a ship. Oh no, are they going to murder me? Turns out no. Turns out so 2 for 2 on this particular day on the nice people. I think this is the guy that was actually dropping off his stuff. I think this guy perhaps was the one that was like, hey, I've been here, I'm island hopping, I've got some stuff, I'm about to hit respawn to get back to my ship to island hop some more, or try to teleport wherever. Here, have things. Okay, So that's there's some tungsten in there, which is pretty cool. There's a few other materials that I will definitely use in this build, and a few other odds and ends. Not all of it stuff I want necessarily, but you know, still some cool goodies in there, and that's much appreciated. Whatever your name is, I can't read it on the screen at this resolution. You'll be able to see it by the time it goes up on YouTube. You'll be able to read it. I just can't now. Right, so back to the ship building at any rate. We now have a irreplaceable recipe in the other crafting station, so a little necessary at this point to actually try and build a crafting station of our own, so that I can put all the other things in there that I need in my ship. Because, you know, if I remove that engine recipe, I will never be able to make any more. And, spoiler alert, I would like to be able to make more. I mean, we've only got 2 on the ship at the minute. If 3 becomes possible, gonna want to do that. I think the materials that we were just provided by that chap do push us just over the limit enough to be able to afford us to make a 3rd one. So I'm not gonna lie, for all that I do want the finest ship in all of the Badlands, we do. I do want it to look cool. So we are putting a Claw Spirit of Kuzuman on, a golden one, obviously. You know, why would you make it out of a lightweight material when you could have a solid gold figurehead on your ship? I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, ultimately that thing, for some reason, still only comes to about 50 kilos. I got that weight limit now. I can work with that. We also got this little toy. That's kind of crazy. I'm not sure what functionality that has, other than to tell everybody where you are, and probably also aggro all the mantas. But it's cool that it's in the game. So yeah, I'm going to pop one on the ship. Heaven help me if I ever have to press that. I can't imagine it will achieve good things. It will achieve cool things. It's a giant freaking horn, but I don't think it's going to achieve good things. So we are going to attempt to make one more engine. Now, we do have the parts to do that, to make that happen. So I'm going to try and find a place to put this on the ship somewhere roughly in the center of things. So that we've got, if nothing else, at least something that I guess you can kind of maintain whilst flying along. If you were to get shot or eaten or attacked or whatever, there's something that's on the deck that's reasonably accessible. Although I suppose in this particular layout of the ship, the other engine's not too bad either. It's a very small ship, everything's pretty readily accessible. With the sole exception, I guess, of the fuel tank, which I have put below decks with no way to get to it. That is a thing that will, I guess, need to be remedied later. But for now, we have just passed 300 power on this ship, which is, for a ship of its size and capacity, rather a good amount, to be honest. I know there are ships out there with a lot more, but they're a lot bigger as well, a lot heavier. So, you know, ultimately I've heard from a few people that there seems to be a kind of a soft cap on the speed limit in the game. If you have a airspeed indicator, which also it will be crafted and put on the ship as well, because I do have one of those, there is kind of a limit at just over about 30 knots in the game. 30, maybe 33 is about the most anybody's really been able to get it up to. Most people do seem to cap out around 31, 32 knots. The more power you add, you get diminishing returns, and at a certain point you just don't really get much bang for your buck out of it. You just don't get much, you just get almost nothing for it. You can stack engines and stack engines and stack engines, and it doesn't make it much better. So, no sense wasting time with that, I suppose. Just, get past 30 knots and you're pretty good, really. Unless you're going to be in some sort of really prolonged chase with somebody. Difference of 1 or 2 knots probably isn't going to make or break anything. So, onto wings. I've got, as you can see, I've got a couple of tier 3 wings, which I have acquired from various chests and things, and just one, I think that was the one we got kind of pretty much as soon as we got to the Badlands, wasn't it? The one tier 4 wing, which is just kind of is better than all the other wings I own. Just statistically, those bars are bigger. So yeah, okay, we're gonna make these ones as our wings. So this is the point at which we first realized that these wings are nuts. These are unlike any other wing I've actually seen on any other craft or in any other schematic in the game, these are kind of crazy. There's some weird V-shaped thing going on. So, yeah, it's kind of like a biplane by design in and of itself. Basically, you stick one of those on both sides of the ship and you've made an X-Wing, frankly. So, we making an X-Wing is what we're doing. Shame they don't quite have the full X-Wing functionality where you press a button and, you know, the two wings fall together and you get extra speed, extra power. So there we go, our wings are in place. That is actually kind of starting to look quite a bit like an X-Wing, and it's kind of cool, and I'm kind of loving it. And a little bit of me is saying, you know what? How much do we really, honestly need new Ironsides? Because this is an X-Wing. Just built an X-Wing in Worlds Adrift, and that's badass. So now I am going to go ahead and I'm going to build a third wing because I know it kind of ruins the X-Wing aesthetic, but the general design philosophy of ships in Worlds Adrift at the minute, the current ship meta, is that a thing? The ship meta is to put at least one fin on the underside to give you a bit more maneuverability. So, 2 spoiler alerts here. 1, that's not going to last very long. And 2, this ship doesn't need it. It is very maneuverable. And I wonder if it owes something to the fact that the wings are already at 2 weird kind of jaunty angles, that those wings being placed where they are already provide both, you know, pitch and a degree of, what's the other one? Yaw? Yeah, it provides both pitch and yaw. Just in and of itself. It probably also has quite a lot to do with how light the ship is relative to the Skycore capacity, that it just turns a lot faster anyway. I mean, the early ships we built in closed beta just were so unmaneuverable, just on the basis that they were like 995 out of 1,000 kilos weight limit, kind of, you know, that kind of thing. Like, there's no capacity here, there's nothing left for the engines to work with. It barely managing to get it off the ground, let alone turn it. But when you've got a decent Skycore, hey, it can actually do the job. So this is about the point at which I realized I basically needed to remove part of the floor in order to get to the fuel tank, because, well, I'd sealed the back in. So, that was a problem. Unfortunately, the way everything's set up, there's a lot of things attached to a lot of things. For starters, I attached the friggin' fuel tank itself to the ceiling, which means I can't remove that floor paneling because there's a fuel tank attached to it. So, I need to remove that, and then attach it to the floor, which is a more sensible place to put it. And then, and only then, can we remove that bit of decking. And, well, make the ship a bit lighter. Watch it fall through the floor. Thanks, bugs. And, yeah, now we can get to the fuel tank. It's a little bit of a janky place to put things, because now my entire cabin has no floor, which is weird. But you can kind of get down below decks, awkwardly, and you can stand on top of the fuel tank, which allows you to actually refuel it, which is a pretty important thing to be able to do on a ship, honestly. If you can't do that, I don't think you're going anywhere anytime quickly. So now we get to the instrumentation. So you can see I've got a few things. Some of the stuff that's on new Ironsides has kind of been salvaged, or I think maybe even Tulkas owns some of them, potentially. So we've got the fuel gauge. I don't know why I nearly said gauge. Yeah, fuel gauge. That's not even whatever Tulkas used to call it. I can't remember what it was, but I don't think even Tulkas called it a gauge. That's a fuel gauge. It tells us how much fuel we have. And we've got a couple others there. We got the heading indicator, which is a pretty good one. For going through various walls and you can't see where you're going. And we've got an airspeed indicator, which is mostly just nice for benchmarking your ship, honestly. It's just a good way to see how fast does this crate go. That's what you want to know. That's the knowledge you crave right from the start. Like, how fast have I managed to get this thing to go? Well, now we know. Unfortunately, still don't have the altitude indicator. That's the other one that's nice to have. Because it gives you a better sense of your place in the world. Also, you know, with stuff like Sky Wars, like, are we descending? I don't know. Have we been knocked out of the sky? Hard to tell. Really can't get a sense of altitude here. You also, you know, presumably it gives you a pretty good idea whether you're near the height limits or, you know, either top or bottom of the world, really. So, good to have in that regard. Would like one of those. Don't have one of those, but definitely would like one. So one thing the ship needs is a little bit of storage. We can make these huge ones, which are rather nice. They hold plenty. I think there is one actually slightly larger. I've noticed that the schematics for do exist. But, you know, given what I've just done to the ship, actually turns out these ones are not terribly practical, really. There's nowhere really good to put this crate. I mean, judging by the green bits, there's clearly a few places they can be placed, but they're going to be jank, is the long and the short of it. There's no way to place that particular crate that is not a jank, which is the problem. I would like unjank places to put it. I thought it goes maybe I could have found somewhere below decks for it, but hey ho. Ultimately, the strategy we're going to go with here is lots of smaller, more sort of wall-mounted things. So there's this little recipe, the mounted box, which is actually on the opposite end of things, one of the smallest units of storage that the game has available to the player. But it is, you know, useful insofar as what it does bring to the table is it can be placed on walls, which, you know, the other ones can't really. Not that I'm aware of. I haven't done experimental tests to see which ones can and cannot, but most of them I think are supposed to be floor-placed things, whereas these little ones are just... I always use them for, like, fuel storage containers, because you can, like, stick them on the side of the fuel tank and stuff in the past, which is kind of convenient, but basically, in lieu of a storage box, the ship is rather instead kind of going to have what's going to be shelving, is really what this is going to be. This is just going to be sets of shelves. I have up till now, aside from the, you know, the prow, the figurehead, kind of neglected the decor, so, you know, I think we need another few large chunks of solid gold mounted to the side of the ship. You know, why not? You know, we've got weight limit, why not abuse it? I know the ship would go up and turn faster if I didn't, but you know what? Sometimes it's just really nice to have large lumps of solid gold affixed to your airship. Who knew? Anyway, yeah, we're gonna put a flag on things as well. Gonna rock our 151st Contub of the Esadari, because that's who we reppin'. I don't know who they are, but we definitely reppin' them, because they got some cool white wings on a purple background flag going on. I dig it, I dig it. I would still kind of like to fly the pirate flag, but I'm concerned that that is one of those things that marks you out as, hey, kill this person. And so with that, I think it is about time that we took flight. I think everything is roughly in place. We've got all our panels on, we've got some storage, we've got all of our doodads, we've got some decoration. We have got 2 wings on the sides, 1 wing on the bottom, 2 engines on the sides, 1 engine on the top. And it's all well very comfortably within the weight limit. So, yeah, I think it's about time to take flight. But first we must test the horn. Having alerted everybody to our presence, let us go! So yeah, this thing hauls ass. This thing takes off very fast and then hits rocks very fast and goes through the rocks very fast. And whoops, that was not, well, that wasn't the most elegant takeoff I've ever done. Probably wasn't the worst takeoff I've ever done, but definitely not the most elegant. So a quick inspection of the underside of the hull tells me that yes, I did totally rip off that very, very expensive wing when I hit the rock there, because it was moving very fast. But now the ship's back to being an X-Wing, so you know what? You know, it's kind of okay. That's alright, it doesn't matter. We're an X-Wing, and as we're gonna find out in just a moment, we really don't need, like, a rudder wing. This thing turns pretty sharpish anyway. See? It's got a good sort of rotational velocity to begin with. Is that the right word? Angular velocity? Rotation? There's a term for that. I don't know if that's the right term for that. But you know what I mean. And, you know, if I were to actually try pulling some actual maneuvers with the ship rather than just simply turning the helm, it can go a lot better. It will attract all these mantas, of course it will. Mantas who are going to throw me off course wildly. But, you know what, we should probably just stop and let them go. Let them be. I do know of one proposed plan to basically exterminate all of the mantas in the game, which is, you know, yeah, a commendable effort, I will say, and something I've, in my own little way, kind of been attempting to work on from time to time anyway. You know, if you find a flock of mantas and you got nothing better to do with your time, you might as well just sort of try and kill them all. I mean, the only way it is kind of an ecosystem thing. The only way mantas are created is through other mantas, so if you kill the mantas, they cannot create more mantas. So just shoot them before they lay eggs, frankly. Eventually, theoretically, one could wipe out the entire population of mantas in the world. One could actually drive them to extinction. And the skies would be a better place for it, because I don't know what good the mantas particularly bring to the ecosystem around here, and I'm not sure anybody else does either. So, yeah, and I know that's definitely something the devs intended. Bossa have said in the past, like, yes, if you were really so inclined, you could genuinely wipe out an entire ecosystem, but there would be consequences. But, you know, people giving it consideration here are like, still can't see any downsides to this. What's the result? There are no more mantas in the sky. Oh, boo-hoo, we can fly freely again. But worth noting that Bossa are planning on implementing some sort of horrifying future swarm thing in the future, which just flies around the sky eating ships, which is horrifying. I mean, mantas only attack you when you're doing stuff. This thing attacks you for not doing stuff. That's just cruel and unusual. But hey, this crate can fly now. This is pretty cool. So I don't think we're gonna go much further than this. Certainly, we'll probably have a look around this island, but I'll do that off camera. I think we're gonna bring the ship to a stop here in the sky and leave it where it's nice and safe between islands, where no pirates are gonna drop out of the sky on us. That's what we thought before. But you know, hopefully I'm small and insignificant, and also fast and maneuverable enough to get away from dangers. But yeah, thank you for joining me on this little X-Wing building escapade, whatever it is. It's cool, and I now need to try and find Tulkas. Whether I do that with or without him remains to be seen. At the time of recording the post-commentary, he is actually back in the land of the free, so maybe I can use him to help me find where he is, at any rate. But yeah, thank you for joining me. I've been Meroka. I will see you next time.